Hey everyone, I'm Nation Wolf here. Just wanted to get into the whole HCS 2025 roadmap, as well as the ranked updates, the sandbox fine-tuning, all that jazz. So let's get right into it. I do have some notes here just to keep me on track. So here we go. First things first, we have the Operation Pass. Now, 1,000 credits, that used to be what we would pay for 100 tiers back in like Season 1, Season 2, Season 3. Those days are long gone now, but that will be the cost for that. Now, if you don't purchase the Operation Path, after the month is over, the free items will move to the exchange, where you can use your Spartan points to essentially make any purchases. And then all the premium items will move to the shop, and you can use Halo Infinite credits as you would normally today to purchase any items there. It's worth noting this is going to only be applicable for the first Operation Pass, apparently. They have specified that for the other two Operation Passes that are to come, it will have the traditional 20 tier model. Now, one thing that's a little bit disappointing about this model versus the one we have currently is that you cannot go back to purchase previous passes if you want to. So it does create a little bit of FOMO, although I guess it does sort of balance out in the sense that those items do show up in the exchange and in the shop, I suppose, if we were talking about premium items. So we'll have to see how it goes. It did feel like it was one of those things that Halo Infinite nailed when it came to the free-to-play model. The whole ability to reduce FOMO and be able to purchase the battle pass at any time and would not expire. Now, moving into some of the fun stuff and not so fun stuff, depending on how you look at things. First and foremost, we do have the fuel rod cannon in Halo Infinite. It's here, it looks great, and it's officially called the fuel rod spanker, not the fuel rod cannon, interestingly enough. It does share the spanker's animations when it comes to reload and firing, so perhaps that's why they added the spanker to it. Looks cool, looks powerful. You got 6 rounds in the chamber and lots of reserve ammo, it seems like. So, and this thing is not to be messed with. It looks pretty powerful. Always fun when they introduce new weapons to the sandbox, and they did mention that the Mutilator is supposed to be coming out this summer, so even more weapons to look forward to. And if you're not aware, the Mutilator is the banished shotgun / crafty hammer. Now, we have a lot of sandbox fine-tuning, so lots of discussion points here. First and foremost, the grenades got a tweak. Takes longer to throw them, essentially back to back. So the cast time is longer. That's what they called it. Cast sounds like a wizard of sorts. The bounce is also higher. That part threw me off, threw me for a loop. I'm not entirely sure the rationale behind the bounce being higher. I'm really curious how it's going to affect certain grenade spots, especially when it comes to like certain bank nades that we've seen pros and high ranked players use. What I'd love to see is an update where we get improvements regarding how sometimes frag grenades literally get stuck on Spartans as if they're stickies, and also how grenades just get stuck in geometry still today. Now we're going to dive into the weapons, and the weapons themselves have seen essentially nerfs across the board, with the weapons that are currently GA'd in ranked HCS play being hit the hardest. This is probably in an effort to actually see them in use in HCS competition and see them picked up as part of the sandbox. Now, the core issue here is that, of course, these changes that are happening in ranked and social, and I would argue that they were fine in a social setting. That being said, you don't want to have a situation where you have certain weapons behaving differently in social versus ranked, because that would just cause a whole lot of headaches, in my opinion. We saw that with the BR at one point, where it was like a 3-burst melee kill in social, and remained a 2-burst melee kill in ranked. It was, yeah, pandemonium. But let's get right into it, right? So first and foremost, the heat wave. The heat wave was arguably too effective at range. So what they've done is that with a vertical spread, they've increased it so it's less reliable at a distance, and they've also made it a slower rate of fire. Bulldog, another one of those weapons that currently GA'd, reduced rate of fire and no headshot multiplier, so less reliable of a 2-tap. I'm not even sure if you can still 2-tap now with that in mind, so it might be a constant 3-tap. Shock rifle, not a weapon that's GA'd, but a weapon that we saw a lot of people excel with, especially when hip firing, even from long distances. So we're going to see reduced aim magnetism at the hip, which I think is a good change. It felt like the shock rifle was a little too easy to use from the hip. That being said, I think one thing that kind of plagues the shock rifle a lot of times is its inconsistency with headshots. At times it feels like you're getting the full burst on someone's head and they still manage to stay alive. So I don't know, maybe down the line we'll see a little bit of improvement in that regard, but overall I think this is a good change. So back to the G8 weapons, we see the Disruptor, reduced ammo in ranked only. Interesting. And decreased accuracy when fired rapidly. So there's more of a spread, making it a little harder to use, especially at a distance. So the AR is an interesting position in that there were 3 nerfs to it and 1 buff. The nerfs are no headshot multiplayer, decreased accuracy at full auto fire, and then reduced ammo as well. But there is an increase in the initial accuracy. So I'm kind of curious if it's going to play out how it did before the previous fine-tuning was. If you recall, a lot of people would use the AR in a burst fashion. So I have a feeling that people will start going back to using the AR as a sort of like burst fire AR to have that initial accuracy. I guess it depends what the timing is, what the spread is when it comes to the initial accuracy when you're firing your shots and the timing of that. But I can definitely see players using this more as a burst weapon to sort of manage that accuracy. Now for the last of the weapons, we see the stock rifle get a nerf. It's a very minor nerf. Rate of fire essentially got decreased 1/10 of a second. I don't think this will have a huge effect by any means, but it is something to keep in mind. Now with all these weapon changes, they're not very exciting to talk about, honestly, because at the end of the day, these are all pretty much getting nerfed in one way or another. Just going back to my previous discussion, I think the interesting aspect of it is that this is going to obviously trickle down to social as well. So social and ranked, obviously sharing the same weapon settings. We'll have to see how it plays out, if there are any cries one way or another. And I honestly think these changes will be for nothing if the pros and high ranked players refuse to use these weapons still. Because 4 out of those 6 weapons are currently GA'd. If they continue to be GA'd, then why were these changes made? I mean, we know why these changes were made because there was an outcry of these weapons and how they were used in a ranked setting. Not so much a social. I didn't hear anyone complaining in terms of social, how these weapons were used. So hopefully these tweaks are enough so we can see them again being used in the ranked sandbox. Because right now the variety is definitely lacking when it comes to the ranked sandbox due to all of these GAs. And finally, we have confirmation of a strafe speed adjustment. Strafe speed acceleration has been nerfed almost 25%, so from 100% to 78% essentially. This was introduced really to combat the jiggle peeking, which has really become the meta with the bandit starts. I think this is a good change overall. Now, I'm curious how this is going to work with aim assist being as strong as it is in today's day and age. And this is coming from someone who mainly plays controller and has played controller his entire life. Aim assist really is strong. I feel like that's part of the advent of having crossplay introduced with MNK and whatnot. But it does feel like we've leaned a little bit too much towards aim assist, and we should lean off it, in my opinion. Everyone's hitting their shots, so with less acceleration speed on the strafe, will it make things easier? Will the bandit become even more powerful of a starting weapon as a result? That being said, that's a whole separate discussion, and I imagine on Halo Studios' part, it would be a lot more complicated to start adjusting aim assist values at this stage in the game. Next, we have ranked squad battle, which was rumored to be coming and is confirmed to be coming. Now, the one interesting thing about this for me was that they are going to allow 8 stacks for this. I had a thought that this might be limited to 4s, as I feel like 8 stacks might be a little much. I can see 8 stacks certainly running the playlist, especially if they come across other teams that are not 8 stacked. It might be some of the sweatiest action too if you do get like a 8v8 situation with both teams obviously being fully stacked. I don't know. I'm a little bit worried about that. I could see that being tweaked in the future to be a limit of 4. That being said, kind of fun that you'll be able to play with a bunch of friends if you want to get a full squad together. So we'll have to wait and see. Next, we have a new map, Origin, essentially an H5 remake. I myself never really played H5 multiplayer. I know. So gonna have to take time to learn it. Looks like a cool map. I think I've heard good things about Origin overall, so looking forward to trying it out. I'm definitely more of a person that enjoys original creations versus remakes, but I can totally see how remakes are just so much easier to implement because they're sort of like tried and true. Naturally, you still gotta test it for Halo Infinite sandbox and movement, but still, original maps I feel are best in my opinion, because then everyone also starts at the same level versus people that have now played H5 and know all the callouts are gonna start a step ahead. But that's always part of the fun. Just learning. Now, the most exciting part of the update for me was definitely the skill jumps that they introduced. This is awesome. It raises the skill gap. For the most part, these jumps didn't seem too hard to actually hit, which is perfectly fine. It becomes really a matter of when to use them and how to use them. A couple of them did look a little bit trickier than others, but for the most part, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to have just more ways to get around the map. Next, we had a summary of 2025 HCS Maps and Modes. In short, a couple of notable points. We have Fortress and Origin as part of the rotation. And we also have Neutral Bomb as one of the official HCS modes. Now, the mode itself, Assault, Neutral Bomb, and One Bomb, will be available in social playlists, as well as the Ranked Squad Battle playlist. Next, we have 2 HCS partners that are entering the scene to replace Sentinels and Quadrant. First of which is Shopify Rebellion. And with Shopify Rebellion being headquartered in Canada, I was really hoping for an HCS Canada event. Unfortunately, as we'll see here shortly, that was not the case. And we also have TSM that was introduced, so big name in esports, very cool to see. Curious what they'll bring to Halo. And next we have the events themselves, the roadmap, what we were here for. First, we have an event hosted by Kazan. I believe that's how you say his name. I apologize if it's not. He's got a Showdown LAN tourney. I'm not familiar with who Kazan is, but apparently a big content creator, so it's always good to have more eyeballs on the Halo Infinite scene. It's going to be taking place in Dallas, Texas. 4 teams are invited, which include FaZe, Optic, Shopify Rebellion, and Space Station Gaming. Then the first major is hosted by Optic in Arlington, Texas, followed by a DreamHack event. Once again, Dallas, Texas. That makes 3 Texas events in a row. Then we have a Salt Lake City event hosted by SSG once again, followed by a FaZe event, which is to be announced when it comes to both the timing of it as well as location. Last year it was in Atlanta. We'll see what happens this year. And last but not least, we have Worlds in Seattle. Shocker. That being said, from a timing perspective, it will be happening in late October, October 24th to October 26th, versus this past year, which was early October. So worth noting. And that's a wrap. What are your thoughts on everything Halo Infinite in 2025? Hope you enjoyed this breakdown. Omniscient Wolf out.